Today, I'm delighted to welcome Erin Gerbec, Director of People Analytics and Insights at Cardinal Health, to the Digital HR Leaders podcast. Erin, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to our conversation, as I know you're making significant progress within your People Analytics function at Cardinal Health, and I think you're going to talk a little bit about the three-year journey. But before we get into the detail, please can you give a brief introduction to yourself and your career journey to date?
Yes, thank you, David. What a privilege to be here and to share our Cardinal Health story with your audience. I will just start by saying what an absolute privilege it is to be a people analytics leader right now. And at Cardinal Health in particular, with a team of nearly 50,000 mission-driven team members who strive each day to advance healthcare and improve lives. It's a really important seat that as people analytics, we service for our companies, and I'm especially excited to have that function at Cardinal Health. We see ourselves as essential to care and a distributor of pharmaceuticals and a global manufacturer and distributor of medical and laboratory products. And so for me, as a people analytics leader, I was so drawn to Cardinal Health because of the mission of the work, but also because we operate in 30 different countries, as I said, with close to 50,000 employees and contractors and on-call team members. Leading people analytics for me, I was drawn for its complexity. And in prior roles, I've worked in talent and people analytics for other Fortune 100 companies, and this particular function was really data hungry in HR and was a great opportunity to show the impact of deepening insights across the employee lifecycle.
That's great. And as you said, I think it is a privilege to work in this field, whether you're a people analytics leader or someone like me who's kind of on the outside of it, but obviously trying to support the field. I mean, the growth in people analytics, in the last 10 years, but particularly I think since the start of the pandemic, has been quite significant. And as you said, we can have a real impact in our organizations and help make that connection maybe between employees and customers, whatever our end customers are, but also actually help our employees have a better experience of work as well. So I hear your comments there around their privilege. I think it's really important. So Erin, I know you've been kind of on a 3-year journey at Cardinal Health since you joined. My understanding is you took over the people analytics function as the leader during the Great Resignation, which must have been quite a challenging time, especially for you as a new leader. I'd love to hear more about this. What are some of the challenges that you faced as you started your journey or personal journey at Cardinal Health?
Yeah, if we all think back to 2021 and 22, those were wild times in people analytics functions. I remember looking at the data and saying, how high up is turnover going to go? And leaders asking, how much higher will it go beyond what we've seen already? So fortunately, I was actually part of that Great Resignation, and I also made a change during that time and landed at Cardinal Health. The team that I took over always ran high on turnover. So 30 to 50% historically, annually was the norm. And so as I mentioned, I was so excited to join Cardinal Health and their people analytics function in that moment because they were hungry for data insights and we're looking for expanding the insights across the employee life cycle. So there were really good bones there already that were ready for that next evolution of the function. So with these, what I consider good bones, dashboard insights were already delivered via Tableau with a SQL database. It's like a really smart, technically skilled data analysts were building those dashboards. There's a small data science team, and so it wasn't that the team was a total turnaround or was starting from scratch. It was just that there was so much fluctuation in the way the team members were interacting with the data, and that they were sort of like working on it individually. And so I bring this up related to the Great Resignation because when you only have good bones and talented individuals, that falls apart really quickly when there's instability and high turnover. So we had about 90 or so Tableau dashboards that were in our portfolio, but they were built by maybe 7 or 8 different data analysts over the years with different SQL code that would even pulling in our enterprise headcount. So it's written 3 different ways on from all these different fingers that have touched it, and it actually produced different headcounts sometimes depending on how it would be pulling into the dashboards. So because every dashboard and every product we had the fingerprints of its creator, um, with different templates and colors and code and levels of automation, it was really painful to lose those team members during that time and to onboard their replacements because there wasn't a systemic standardized way of doing things. And the remaining team members who then had to train the new hires also had to learn their peers' product in order to even explain to the replacement how they would keep that product going. So it was a really really interesting time to join a team with so much enthusiasm and passion for taking it to this next evolution of of the team, while at the same time more than half the team left and found other opportunities through that time, and that meant having to figure out what is the next best step we need to take so that we can deliver for our HR partners and for our business the way that people analytics has that seat at the table to do so.
So it sounds like you had some of the raw ingredients there, but there was a need to bring some stability, um, mainly because you had that turnover of people within the people analytics team itself, and some consistency, perhaps because, as you said, you had some dashboards that had been effectively built by 7 or 8 analysts over the years. So there's, you wanted to build that consistency in and make sure that headcount, it's very important to get headcount right, isn't it? We know that's
Yes.
the sort of thing that can really cause upset with some of the customers that we're dealing with in the business. So what were the steps that you took? And you mentioned, and obviously a key part of that, I guess, was standardizing reporting. What steps did you take to enable to stabilize the team, but also enable the standardized reporting across the HR function and drive that vision, I think, that you had as well of the team becoming a bit more consultative?
Well, I spent a lot of that first year just keeping the lights on for the most high priority, high visibility requests with the team members who remained. Uh, we rebuilt the team one key position at a time, and we also created a strategy to standardize the reporting, as we've mentioned. I think really the focus that we had, and where I think where I'm excited to share our story, is not to like take a victory lap for us at Cardinal Health or what we've built, but because I feel like so many of my peers that I talk to have shared that they felt similar experiences with my story too. So what helped us find a North Star were to focus on 2 things. One is that we made, um, as I mentioned, that the interest was in having connections across the employee life cycle. And so even as we rebuilt dashboards and thought about even the more tactical pieces, it was from the lens of how is this going to help us understand the employee experience across all of the different components of their journey. So if we're building a TA dashboard, as an example, knowing that employees who apply for 2 or more jobs and don't get them are more likely to leave the company means that knowing how to get to your TA data and knowing how to get to your active employee data, all of that matters, and you need to be able to make connections across. So that's the first thing, was having a focus on creating connections across the employee life cycle. And the second was to be great consultants on those insights. And we didn't want to just let that occur naturally or organically. We wanted to be really intentional with it. And so what we landed on was you can't be consultative until you have time to think about the data. And when I think my real first aha with the team was that we need to build the team for high turnover. Like, it has to be easy to leave and it has to be easy to onboard. So data analysts, data scientists, people who can wrangle data and lift an actionable insight from it, they're always going to be in demand. My team should always be getting calls from recruiters to be poached from me. So it's not about building team members who will stay. It's about building a structure that makes it easy to join and leave so that everyone has career opportunity and that the work doesn't stop just because individuals go on to that internal promotion or look for another opportunity somewhere else that fits their needs. So we did the work to standardize everything. The Tableau dashboard templates, the SQL code, the way we storytell with our data, even the chart types that are used to make the insight pop faster and more intuitively for the end user. Everything that comes from our team has to feel like it came from the people analytics team. As soon as that dashboard refreshes, I wanted everyone to feel like, oh, this came from Erin's team. So it's credible, I can trust it, and I know who to go to if I have further questions. So, having to your comment earlier, getting the headcount right is really important. And the last thing any people analytics team wants to have is a really insightful dashboard that tells the right purpose-driven story, and then someone says, "But is that number right?" How would I check that? And we didn't build it to check the data. We built it to provide an aggregate story. So I think for us that was the most important part, was actually carving out time to prioritize that, and it ended up being that about 40 to 50% of our time in that second year was set aside so that we could rebuild um, and think about the way that we standardize and free up our time so that we can think about the data and be consultants. So we automated everything that could be automated. We decommissioned dashboards that nobody was really looking at anymore, so we wouldn't have to even have them in our portfolio to look at, and identified those coding inconsistencies so that we even found a few errors we weren't expecting to find when we did that review, and made everything a little better and a little faster. And that has completely transformed how our team spends our time. So it's not that every day is like, well, I have to fix this broken dashboard and this one needs to be refreshed, and they wanted that tweak to it, and that's going to be 2 weeks of my time. It allowed us to think, now that I don't have to touch the dashboards, how can I think about the data that's in them and then proactively reach out to say, hey, I noticed things went up this month. Like, maybe we should have a conversation about that instead of letting the end user find that insight on their own.
That's really interesting. When Jonathan and I were writing the Excellence in People Analytics, we were looking at, obviously, spoke with lots of people analytics leaders and teams across the world, and we found that the best teams were strong on focus, the ability to provide value, and obviously by value having an impact within the organization. And it is exactly that. It's so easy to get lost on the hamster wheel, isn't it, of just providing dashboard after dashboard or piece of data after data. And as you said, a lot of times you were able to decommission dashboards which people weren't really using, so they weren't really providing value. You were able to really drill down on the ones that were. But by freeing up the time, you're able to be much more consultative. So it's not just a case of providing the information and the insights. It's starting to understand, well, why is this happening? What questions does this mean that we can maybe go away and try and answer for you, which maybe is going to provide value to our customers, or provide even more value to the organization, both on a financial term as well. So it's really interesting when in the research we do at Insight 222, we look at the question we get asked: what do the leading companies do in people analytics? We wanted to really understand what are the key skills in a people analytics team. Is one of the things that we looked at. So we had an operating model which we put together in 2020, had 14 different roles, but which are the most important roles? And it was quite interesting when we looked at leading companies, and leading companies were those companies that actually say that they're creating value for the organization on a consistent basis. And the three roles that were most important, one of them was data scientist, which probably doesn't come as a surprise. One was behavioral scientist or psychologist. And then the last one was consultants. So it's people that either as part of their job or as their job are facing off directly with the business, probably working in partnership with HR business partners most of the time. and really trying to understand the key priorities of the organization, and focusing some of the high value, the more advanced analytics on that piece. And it sounds like that's kind of the journey that you've been on at Cardinal Health, Erin.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the industrial organizational psychologist as well. I didn't include that in my initial introduction because, again, I'm not here for a victory lap or commentary on me. I wanted to focus on Cardinal Health. But that's been because that's my background. That's the lens through which I see the team. I look at data-driven HR and the idea of a data-driven HR culture through that lens of asking the data questions and the methodology, the statistics, and the interpretation and generalizability of what you're looking at, more so than looking at trends and assuming that it's going to stay the same. So
Mm,
it's been a bias of mine to come in with that expectation, and lead a team that also has so much other skill and background in other areas and have made it to HR from different pathways. So as we were looking to fill the team and fill the open positions from that great resignation period, we started out thinking, well, we definitely need Tableau dashboard builders. We need SQL coders,
mm,
because that's the
mm,
tool we had in the moment. And it quickly shifted to, that's not going to be enough. We need people who, to your point, can be consultants and can be thoughtful about data architecture, as well as the question being asked, as well as how to interpret it. So I think that really hits on all three of your findings from that study as well.
that's really good. So I suppose that lends quite nicely to the next question I want to ask you, around your operating model. So your structure in people analytics, obviously as you went on this journey, did this require a shift in how you looked at your operating model with people analytics? What does your people analytics function look like in terms of people, skills, scope of work, those sorts of things?
I'd say it was less of a shift and more of an evolution. And it was sort of one role at a time, as we evaluated, well, now that I'm the leader, what do I need in my managers to make this effective? And then once we place the managers, like, what are their strengths? What do we need in their additional team members who are filling open roles? What do we need then to fill gaps so that we are this interdisciplinary um, team of people who came from different backgrounds and different work experiences, but still can all rally around the same passion for HR data and passion for the employee. So the thing that really helped us the most in thinking about our operating model, once we got to the people side of it, we went to a mission statement. And we you're going to hear from me a couple times throughout this conversation that I like to have themes and statements that everybody can ground themselves in. And certainly the year one was stabilization. Um, Year two was to focus on the foundation. We need to rebuild in a way that takes these good bones, cleans up what needs to be cleaned up, and then take it to the next level. And here now, where we're in year three, I think it's more of a year of what's possible and all the changes we've made with implementing Cruncher and really unleashing this team as consultants and what they can do for the business. But it all started with 5 simple words, where we said, we exist to deliver insights that drive outcomes. And as I said before, you can't be consultative if you don't have time to think about the data. And so rallying around these 5 words for us gave us the permission to say no. And the work that we may have done in the past that was more tactical, or hey, run this workday report for me and do a VLOOKUP with the other one and give it to me every Monday, um, allowed us to say that's not the value we add, and that's not delivering an insight that drives an outcome. And so let me show you how we can schedule this for you on your own. Workday will send it to your inbox every Monday, and this is now off of our plate so that we could say no to the most say no to work so we could say yes to the most impactful work that our team can provide, but also that lights us up, that we want to do every day. And I think the outcome of that, the testament to that was the right thing to do, is that Today, my turnover is 0% annually. We have not had a single person leave the team since we rebuilt it this way.
Wow. Well, that's testament to you, I think, and the rest of the team as well, and what you've built.
Yeah, it's a team where we work together. We work cross-functionally. We still have our swim lanes. We still have, our workday focused folks. We still have our Cruncher and Tableau focused team members. We still have data science and the database management. Yet we all work very collaboratively together, and that wasn't possible before when we were just heads down thinking about the dashboard that needed to be
Mm,
refreshed that day. So I think for us, this more of a customer-centric approach to understanding their needs when we had more time to think, like let's look to the horizon and see what would they ask for if they knew we could do it for them. If we hadn't told them no so many times because we didn't have time or it wasn't the right thing in that moment, what would they have asked for? So we
mm,
just started to deepen our partnerships with our HR business partners, with our COE leaders, and took the time with them to develop a prototype and get feedback and iterate some more and get more feedback so that they felt part of the process and it could sharpen our work and our thinking as well. And really also asking them, what is on your wish list? What do you wish you knew? And often it was possible. We just hadn't had the capacity to do it in the past or didn't have the tools and the right talent in place to think through it and to deliver in a way that would actually meet the speed of the business.
I mean, we again, when Jonathan and I were writing Excellence in People Analytics, we were actually struck by how many companies the people analytics team did have mission statements. And some of them they weren't. Some of them were as simple and as clear with the clarity that yours had as well. And I think again, what we found is it number one helped mobilize the team around a common goal. But it sounds like, and then it sounds like it's certainly done the case with you, Erin, and the team, and then it also helps your customers in the business, both within HR and the business, kind of understand what the team's designed there to do. So it works out well for that, and then it helps you prioritize, as you said. If you can't say yes to everything, it's impossible, and obviously you want to focus on the work that's going to have the biggest impact to the organization. And it sounds like it's helped you to do that as well. And then it sounds, and again, that kind of leads on to the next thing, which you mentioned there. It enables you, it kind of help evolve. I use the word evolution, actually. It's helped evolve the relationship that you and the team have with your HR business partners, which is such an important relationship for a people analytics team. So maybe you could talk a little bit more to that, Erin. So, that shift from more of a technical focus to more of a consulting focus, maybe more of an outside looking organization function, sorry. How's that changed the way that the people analytics team, operate and interact with HR partners, but also the broader business as well?
I think it was probably my first week at Cardinal Health, knowing that I was specifically hired because there was an interest in looking at more of the connections across the employee life cycle. Um, I started saying to people, I really want to change the conversation about what it means around this data-driven HR. We think we're headed in this direction, but nobody really knows what it means. But let's think of it this way: like, we need to stop telling ourselves that there is data-driven decision making. It doesn't exist because data doesn't make the decision on its own. The people still have to be the ones who can interpret and understand that information, the data, the trends, the analysis that they're seeing in combination with their expertise and their business knowledge so that the people can take action on what they're seeing. So I'd rather spend our time talking about what questions you want to ask of the data and how we can shape it to answer that for you and to make it obvious to you how that fits in with the narrative that you already have in your head, or how it challenges that and where we need to ask further questions. So in the past, a meeting with an HR partner might have looked like the HR partner saying, these are the slides I show in our QBR with the business, and this is really manual for me to pull all this together in these data, and it takes me a full week every quarter to do this. Erin, can your team create a dashboard for me so I can just screenshot this and plop it in my PowerPoint deck? And so we started asking, well, what questions should we ask of the data, and how will you take action on that data that you do provide? And if you don't plan to take action, then we really shouldn't be talking about it. That's not the best real estate for you to be even bringing to the business. So we started creating and thinking about really what is a purpose-driven, insightful dashboard across every part of the employee life cycle that can inform action and maybe inspire the next question that should be asked of the data, so you can click into it and think, well, now that I know this, what more do I need to understand to make that decision? So as a team, we just really adopted this new mindset that, we have a new vocabulary around consulting, where um, we we call ourselves, it's the order taker versus order maker. So some people in our learning team actually put together this presentation to think about being a better consultant, and we've really leaned into it. So uh, there's probably an example I could give you almost every week of the year. One of my team members is saying, um, I really have, I know order taker versus order maker. They're asking for this, but I don't think that's really what they need. And so we take this consulting approach that our HR partners are always going to tell us what they want and what they see that they think would be helpful to them. But it's our job and it's our responsibility, because of our expertise in analytics, to translate their wish list items into what they really need to have that data-driven conversation, so that they can, as people, can make the decision with data. So we spent a lot of time thinking about how to, and talking with each other about how to approach that with humility, because they know the business more than we do. We're just sitting on the other side of some dashboards to them, and we might be the gatekeeper to the information they need, and we're slowing them down. So how do we build that relationship with humility, with partnership, with influencing without the authority, to shape the conversation so that what we deliver for them is truly what they're going to need, and we don't have to feel defensive or have those. Um, it shouldn't erode the relationship that they asked for one thing and we gave them something else. We should strengthen the relationship through that process so that they want to come back to us for the next question they have.
Makes a lot of sense because it's almost like the team's using its consulting prowess to get to the real question beneath maybe the question or the query that's being answered, and it's the real question that actually provides the insight and the action then that the business leader or the HR business partner can then drive. And it also sounds like you're using insight to drive curiosity. So you provide a dashboard that actually provides value. It's on the topics that business leader or that HR business partner cares about, and then that insight is then driving the next layer of questioning, which then obviously the team can get involved in. No, that sounds really good. In terms of managing that transition, what are sort of and you talked about moving from order takers to order makers. What were some of the training or upskilling initiatives that you implemented to support this change, maybe for your team, but maybe also for the wider HR professionals as well?
Well, as I said, we spent most of the we spent a year with the theme focus on the foundation, and that foundation is the standardization, the connection across the employee life cycle, and the consulting. And so for us, we feel like table stakes as a people analytics function was getting the standardization right, teaching our partners how to interact with the new standardized look and feel. Um, I always told the team, like, there shouldn't be a question when you get to a dashboard of like, where is the filter bar on this one? It should all be exactly where you'd expect it to be from the last one you used. Um, so that was more in the Tableau space before we moved to Cruncher, of course. But when we had to make choices on that, we had to be really intentional to make that a better experience for our HR partners and how we kind of upskilled them to interact with us. On the consulting side, we've been really intentional with uh, that consulting skills don't just organically happen. Like, my experiences are a culmination of a PhD in IO psychology, years of experience working, falling flat on my face and learning quickly from it. And I've had all of these experiences I bring with me into my leadership of the team, which is a mix of early career professionals, folks who are passionate about HR data but have never actually worked with it until now, and so, and anywhere across that continuum. So what we wanted to do was not wait for everyone to get there on their own, but to actually drive conversation where we held ourselves accountable to elevating our skill and committing our time to getting better at the consulting piece. So we actually scheduled monthly consulting skill sessions on our calendar, and we um, actually put together a series of topics monthly. It had been that we just leaned on the learning function, which had some great content to start to really give us a kickstart to the right language and the right foundation with it. But shortly after that, we just started doing it ourselves and said, well, what do we think we need to get better at? And giving each other tough feedback of, I think we need to say no better. We've been like, your to-do list is too long. These things aren't all important, and we need to prioritize with the resources we have. Let's do a session on how to prioritize the right work, and then let's do a follow-up session on how to say no when it's not the right work, or how to navigate difficult stakeholders who are asking for something that isn't the right thing to do right now. And it's actually gotten to, over the last 8 months of these 8 sessions, then have actually been led by more junior team members. The individual contributors on the team have come up with their own topic and researched it and presented it to the rest of us, which is great for their development as well as in practice and presentation skills. But we all benefit because it's an important topic to get better in our consulting with our partners. So just a few of the examples of the topics we've done. I've mentioned like influencing without authority, prioritizing, basics of project management, data storytelling, redirecting stakeholders and saying no, um, and problem solving. Even somebody has on our team has a background in industrial systems engineering, and did a really great piece on that got us thinking about how what we deliver has a lot of analogous qualities to that as well, and it really sparked a lot of conversation.
No, that's really good. I love that. It's like a mixture of empowering the team, but also improving the cohesion of the team, and bringing all those, you said, all those different experiences that people had together. Recognizing that some people have deeper expertise in some topics than others. No, that's really powerful. And Erin, you mentioned technology. Obviously, when you joined, you had Tableau dashboards. You mentioned that you've implemented Cruncher. I think you talked about Workday as well. Um, tell us the technology story, please. You've obviously gone for a buy versus a build option, and you've obviously evolved from Tableau to Cruncher. What are some of the sort of considerations that you made, and maybe, yeah, just tell us how the journey along there, really.
My favorite thing about this build to buy story that I have, so personally, my favorite part of it is how, when we first started those conversations, the first thing I said when I hung up the phone with Dirk for the first time to my manager was, well, we're never going to buy this. I'm sure I can do this. We can do this ourselves. We already have a plan. We have a focus on our foundations, year-long journey where we're going to standardize everything. We're going to be great consultants. It's going to take us about 18 months to rebuild all these Tableau dashboards to be more purpose-driven and easy to navigate and standardized, but we have a plan and we don't need to deviate from it. And I very quickly realized that my ego was getting in the way of what the business really needed, which is I could have built something over that journey of 18 months, and if we're being honest, it was probably going to take longer than that because it typically does. And I realized we had the investment and the hunger from our HR senior leadership to be more data driven, that the moment to be bold and really rethink my way of leading that team through that focus on our foundation year was to really consider what a buy option could do for us and how that could accelerate all of the things that we were working toward, instead of waiting 18 months for me to deliver for the business. It could be there in just about, the very next fiscal year. So for us, the thing I'm so glad we did through that process was we engaged stakeholders really early in that conversation before we even put the RFP out, before we even put it in our budget for the following year. We had some demos from Cruncher and a few others and had HRBPs, the VP of compensation, like people that really need the HR data to be accurate and faster from my team, sat in the room with us as we went through just some informational demos and to see how they wanted to interact with a tool, and not just like tell me how you want my Tableau dashboard to be different, but for them to see something completely new to them that they never even imagined HR data could be presented to them that way, because they had just never seen it from my team that way. It was really eye-opening to see what they wanted and what would make their jobs easier and provide more insight for the business. So when it came time to actually go through the RFP and through that decision, it was just no question that Cruncher checked all those boxes for us as an intuitive, very quick to value system that would be more than worth the investment of that capability compared to waiting for my 18-month plan to come to fruition.
Yeah, and I love the comment you made. A sign of a good leader is when that leader recognizes that they may be getting in the way of what could be the right thing for the company. So credit to you for saying that as well as part of your answer. And I love the way that you've got some of your key users involved in looking at the different options. And I imagine as you've implemented Cruncher, that's helped get buy-in from those users about using the new platform, rather than whereas if you hadn't involved them, then that change management process I would hypothesize would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it's spot on. And that same group that we used in the first introductory conversations were part of our soft launch tester group, and were able to give us great feedback about, now that we're seeing Cardinal Health data in this tool, this is what I like, this is what I'm still not sure about. And that really shaped how we did the training for when we did the complete rollout about a month after that, so that we knew if they were data savvy and were already kind of interested in this new tool, and some of their other team members weren't as data forward in their thinking, and this was going to be a big change for them. So it really shaped how we thought of the training and the things we wanted to address right away, so we could support those before others had a chance to feel like it was a miss or a confusion on their part that they'd have to overcome.
So obviously, Cruncher has been an important part of the 3-year journey you've been on. You talked about it as year 1 stabilization, year 2 rebuild the foundations. And correct me if I'm getting these words wrong, as interpreting what you said earlier. And 3, is really trying to take it to the next level. To scale it, to unleash the power that you kind of have within the team, but both from the technology as well. What are some of the key benefits that you, or the impact that you're having as a team, maybe already, but that you foresee having, in throughout the rest of this 3rd year?
The first, you got the themes correct, so thank you for that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I think that what's been amazing in this year 3 of implementing Cruncher, and what's been amazing from my team is that we haven't just implemented Cruncher. So I'll come back to this in a second. At the same time, we've really looked at from a persona lens, who of our HR partners, where do they want to interact with us? So it was actually when we were during the focus on the foundation year, when we were going through the RFP and trying to decide what our next steps would be, we actually took a few months and did an exercise to look at all the different people who are currently asking something from us, and it was very broad. Even like finance needs workday reports about our headcount, and technically our team owns that, even if that's not driving insight, like delivering insight to drive outcomes, they still need that to be accurate. Um, the compensation team, talent acquisition, our engagement and talent management teams, everybody needs HR data in a different way. They lean on us differently. And sometimes they didn't lean on us enough because we didn't have something very good for them. That it's easier for the compensation team to have their own reports that they download out of Workday and pivot and analyze and build PowerPoint decks for senior leadership presentations. That's easier for them than trying to wait on us to build a Tableau dashboard with data that's already a month expired because we only do a monthly refresh. So we really thought about if we could optimize how we partner and where people interact with us, where would they want to go? So we thought, the compensation team as the example, they need the data out of Workday instead of what's in our SQL database because it's up to the minute correct. So we need to build better reporting and dashboards right within Workday for them to interact with when that's the right answer to their question. But they also need analytical horsepower. Instead of building out these decks that slice and pivot things that takes them a month, and I'm not exaggerating, it can take them a month to analyze all these complex things for 50,000 employees. We need to also build something for them in Cruncher that allows them to kind of rinse and repeat some of the same analytical views that they have by just refiltering on an organization instead of creating new PowerPoint slides from scratch and what they need to talk through. And so we did all of that strategy work while we were still focusing on our foundation, rebuilding Tableau dashboards, kind of realized we were headed in the Cruncher direction and stopped rebuilding Tableau dashboards and even said, hey, this is coming soon, so let's focus on the right work and make sure we carve out time to really know where you want to meet us. So I give that example to say we have a lot of different stakeholders as a people analytics team, and I'm sure in your audience, all of them do too. It's not just HR business partners or the core metrics, but lots of people need lots of things from us. And Cruncher has been an incredible tool for us to scale what had been very tedious and localized that is already available on a weekly refresh for our customers, that they can interact with it and then come to us if they have questions or have different needs for new custom stories and dashboards to see it differently. So our relationship with the technology and with our partners has just been it's been amplified and it's been changed in so many different ways because we're actually servicing HR COE partners that we really hadn't had a relationship with before. And now, just to continue, I'll pull the thread and wrap up the story about compensation, where they had been working pretty individually, not relying on my team for much support. They actually, about a month ago, were able to pull together views out of Cruncher that we had consulted with them on. We created a custom story for them in Cruncher that allowed those same views that they put in PowerPoint and table views, we just created with the data right there. And they were able to pull that data on a Monday after the weekend refresh, drop it into their PowerPoint, add a couple of explanatory bullets to the side, and send it as a pre-read on Tuesday to the CEO and CFO, CHRO, and talk about it on Wednesday morning. So for us, it's about recognizing where people want to interact with us and running toward that solution with them so that everybody in HR can be more effective with data.
Again, that's a really good example. And at the end of the day, if your comp team is happy with the service that you're providing, they're usually the most data literate and analytically savvy people in HR alongside the people analytics function. So, and it sounds like you're saving them a lot of time with the platform there as well, and they're able to provide value to their stakeholders. But really good practice as well. One of the things that we sometimes hear about HR needs to be a bit more like marketing, obviously using data as part of that, but also doing that persona building on your key customers is another key thing that good marketing teams do well, but so do good people analytics teams. again, when Jonathan and I were writing the book, Excellence in People Analytics, so I think we've got a whole chapter on stakeholders, and there's 7 different types of stakeholders, but lots of different stakeholders within those 7 types as well. And as you said, they interact with you differently. And actually, it's easy to underestimate, I think, as a people analytics team, the extent of the stakeholders that you deal with and the different needs that they've got. And if you're able to fill as many of those as possible, then obviously you're going to be having more impact as a people analytics function. So that's really good. And Erin, I think you mentioned finance earlier, but I'm sure there's other business units that you're interacting with. Has collaborating with some of the other business units within Cardinal Health really helped with the transformation and maybe with the impact that you're having as a team as well?
I'll share that we don't have a lot of collaboration with other business units, and so this is one where I know that partnership with finance and other functions would really continue to amplify our impact. The Cardinal Health's HR operating model has always been to leverage HR analytics through the HR business partners. So we don't have a direct line to like managers and frontline supervisors in our current model, but we're actually excited with the scaling we've seen with adopting Cruncher, with our data science models that are able to predict flight risk and other impactful events. We're actually here in our next year of Cruncher, which is going to be will be year 4. You ready for my next theme? I told you I'd have another one.
Go on. Yep.
Really, this is going to be the year of curiosity, of like getting into the data and appreciating like what it tells me and what's next. And part of that is going to be giving licenses to frontline supervisors and some key business partners so we can get their feedback directly on HR metrics and how they see it interacting with their business. Our hope is it just frees up capacity for the HR business partner as well, that they don't have to be the one who's channeling the HR data to their business leaders, but we can provide the turnover rates, overtime rates, location specifics, by shift, by diversity. All of those aggregate metrics can go directly to a frontline supervisor for what they care to look at and analyze, or to click into on their dashboard. So it'll be great to see the partnership that comes from that as just a new way of working.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were in so last week, we were actually 2 weeks ago when this episode goes live, but we were in Geneva with a group of people analytics leaders as part of the Insight 222 program, which Nestle kindly hosted for us. And we had a couple of organizations speaking about how they're delivering business value with people analytics. And we had this whole conversation about how do you get to the business? Is it through your HR business partners or with your HR business partners? And that prompted quite a lot of discussion. And I think we all agreed you should never go around your HR business partners. You should always involve them. But maybe, as you said, it is maybe the next part of the evolution for you at Cardinal Health, that there may be opportunities to go with the HR business partner. Because I think the challenge for HR business partners is companies expect a lot of them, and they can be spread quite thin. And they can become a bit of a bottleneck as well. And as you're developing that consulting expertise within your team as well, the deeper understanding of analytics, sometimes going with the HR business partner, can really drive a good conversation with the business leader as well. So yeah, I'm interested some of the insights you get from your year of curiosity as well. There's really good stuff, Erin. Before we get to the question of the series, if you could give one piece of core advice, and you can give more than one, because I think the 3-year journey may warrant more than one piece of advice, but at least one piece of core advice to our listeners who are on a similar journey towards transforming their people analytics operating model, what would it be?
This is the part where I get to remind everybody that I'm not the Microsoft or the Google of people analytics. I'm just like all of you in your audience. How so many of us have a passion for this space, but haven't been able to get the traction or scale the way that we know is possible in some other organizations. And as inspiring as those other stories are, we're left with the resources we have and the sponsorship we have. And for me, the advice that I would, if somebody found themselves in the situation I did in my year one, is to think, what does the business need most from me that I can provide unique value? And for us, that was, taking that year to say we need to focus on our foundation and really get great at consulting. That it sounds like, David, from your research, that's a common thread among so many teams, but that may not be your first step, depending on where you are as a function and what your challenges are. And I would just encourage people to look around and see where is my unique value that we can add in a data-driven HR culture, and just start walking in that direction. For us, it didn't come simply or without its roadblocks. So I know I kind of speak to this in terms that it feels like it maybe didn't have as many roadblocks because we're just hitting some highlights. But creating a plan and sticking with it and showing others what that end state is, what you're working toward, has really been what for us has made all the difference. That we've got the investment to continue to I guess the investment to continue to walk this path.
It's wherever whatever the situation is, when take on a people analytics function, either you're starting it from scratch, or like you're coming in inheriting something that's already there. As you said, where can you? I love that. As you said, where can I uniquely add value? How can we be useful at the end of the day? How can we be useful and deliver value to our stakeholders? Yes, you've probably got that long term, mission that you're trying to achieve, but you can't get there straight away. You have to do it in baby steps, and as you create value, as you said, you'll get more investment along the way for platforms like Cruncher and others to help you then scale that even further moving forward. So I think that's a really good piece of advice, Erin. That leads nicely to the question of the series. So everyone in this series has been answering this question, and actually you're episode 5 of the series, so you're the last guest to get to answer it. How and you've touched on this a little bit. How can HR leaders use analytics to uncover and address inclusivity gaps within their organizations?
For me, the opportunity for using data to drive the conversation, and using the data around inclusivity, diversity, equity, whatever lens through which you're looking at that. For me, it's so important to go back to, what are the facts? What do we know to be true about what our employees have told us about their experiences, and it's creating a purpose-driven analysis that's looking for gaps, so that we can determine if not just are all boats rising, but are we closing the gaps between the experiences of some groups versus others. We have this incredible privilege, as I've said at the top of the call, this incredible privilege to have our fingers on the insights of the people of the company. Like, what an honor it is that people are willing to even voice how they're experiencing their work environment, through engagement surveys or other listening, or simply just through the tacit information that's collected as they move through their career and throughout their employee life cycle. How long does it take to get a promotion for one group versus another? And if they're saying that they don't feel like their voice is heard, and we've taken some action on it, then it's our responsibility to check and see if that's improving. So I just feel like people analytics is the foundation to holding ourselves accountable to creating inclusive workplaces, where we can show that, through the data, through the statistics and the insights, that we are closing the gaps so that everybody at work can have the same experience.
No, I think that's really good. As you said, I think in people analytics, we're in that privileged position that we can shine a light on topics such as inclusivity, diversity, and equity and belonging. And hopefully the insights that we can identify, will actually, help leaders make decisions that will improve all of those things within the organization, as you said, and improve the overall experience of work for everyone. So, I mean, that's something that drives, I think, a lot of us forward in this field. Erin, thank you so much for being a guest on the Digital HR Leaders podcast. It's been great to learn more about the journey that you're on at Cardinal Health, the very impressive journey that you're on Cardinal Health as well. How can, before we part ways, how can listeners follow you? I presume it's on LinkedIn, and also find out more about the work that you and the team are doing at Cardinal Health.
Well, I'll first start by saying what an honor it was to join you on your podcast, David, longtime listener and fan. So I appreciate the opportunity to just share the story of my team. Yes, LinkedIn is the best place to find me, and be happy to connect with anyone who'd like to continue the conversation.
Well, Erin, and thanks for the kind words about the podcast as well. It's a privilege for us to have you as a guest as well. We've had a number of people analytics leaders from different organisations, I think, throughout the 5 years that the podcast has been running. So, and it's good, and you've definitely added to that talent that we've had on there. So, thank you very much for being a guest. And Erin, hopefully at some point we'll meet in person as well, probably at an HR or people analytics conference, perhaps around the world, probably in the US. But thank you for joining and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.